have audio. Two of my favorite things to talk about would be Sheriff Mark Lamb here in Arizona. Greg does mention Sheriff Lamb in his book. And Donald Trump. I like to talk about those two things. In fact, I wrote a really passionate letter to President Donald Trump. I would like to read that to you because it's a great letter live on the air, but I'm not going to do that today. Maybe we'll hold that over for another week. It's really good. If you tune in next week, if I haven't lost my job as a background assistant, and I come back, make sure and hold me, call me to task about that letter because it is really good. It's full of passion. It's full of lots of intel, lots of things that a lot of people have overlooked when it comes to really digging into candidates that are running here in my home county of Pinell County. So you definitely want to stick around for that. That'll be next week or maybe the week after, depending on. But again, that is on record. I did write a very, very passionate letter to President Trump. I really like Greg's book. What he has to say about Sheriff Lamb and how they met and why he is such a passionate supporter of Sheriff Mark Lamb. It's not just here in Arizona, but it's across the United States. You can go and you can say the name Mark Lamb, and people have heard of him. They've connected with him. Could be from the Sheriff Network. A lot of people have enjoyed his show and just his work with law enforcement. But here in Arizona specifically, I want to tell you about what is working here because you can't go anywhere in this county where you're not on the receiving end of the good and wise decisions that he's made. And I really feel that when it comes to who should you vote for, should you vote for the person that you see the most on the TV? That's the lazy man's way of doing things. And when you have DC dollars backing you as a candidate and you just go with the assumption that, oh, this person has more money, they are endorsed by someone, they just get my free pass. That is brain drain kind of thinking, and we can't do that. We have to look into the who, what, where, when, and why. And so as an investigative journalist, and a radio announcer who wakes up in kindergarten every single day, like today, I've learned there are no shortcuts. You have to be on. You have to do the grunt work. You have to, you can't skip steps. So I've uncovered a fair bit to do with this local election that's going to be happening in July when we find out who the candidate is going to be. Is it going to be Sheriff Lamb or is it going to be Kari Lake? As you know, she originally ran for governor. She was pretty sure she was, going to win, and she never claimed her victory. That shocked me. That surprised me that she and everyone else was convinced that she won, but yet she never went up to the podium and said, I won. And I wondered, well, who are you waiting on? And so to see a candidate jump from governor to senator, I've learned that those are two very, very different roles. And I've noticed that the media hasn't asked her big, important questions like, what are you going to do differently? Like, what was your plan as a governor, and what's your plan as a senator? And there's no talk of that. So doing some digging into the backgrounds of both Sheriff Lamb and Kari Lake, I appreciate Kari Lake. She's beautiful. She's very, very good on camera. But reading off a teleprompter, I respect that because it's very hard to put a lot of emotion, and you have to, think about your face. You have to think about all these things to read off a teleprompter to convince people, to convince those of you that are watching or listening as to the sincerity of what you're reading off of a screen. And her background is a media news anchor. And as someone who knows how difficult that is, because it's not as easy as it sounds to just read off a teleprompter, I did that as well. And it's hard work. Let me tell you guys, it is not as easy as it looks to be convincing. But that's not enough. that's not enough to go to DC with and represent on really, really big issues. And so when I look at Sheriff Lamb as a comparable in his background, this is someone who runs into danger. This is someone who deals with people in high society and low society and all the in between. And he knows how to handle these things. He has no fear. You know, how many times has he been shot at on record? I don't know. I don't know if he knows that. But, you know, it's an awful thing to think about. But these, when you're dealing with the DC swamp creatures, when you're dealing with the low morales and everything else, you want somebody that has the history and that has the future that Sheriff Lamb does. And so, you know, some may call him the underdog in this race. I don't. I call him the absolute best prepared candidate that's going to rock it. He is going to win it, because it all comes down to, you know, those of us at home who have a say and can exercise it. And from one side of Arizona to the other, good or bad, people love Sheriff Lamb for what he stands for, which is the true American dream. You know, he stands for God, family, freedom. And he's never wavered on those things. The other candidate, I could put news stories in front of you, has wavered on those things. He's been a lifelong conservative and has a record to go along with that. So those are really important things that, as you at home do your own investigation, because you don't need a mainstream media commercial to convince you what's right or wrong. You do the digging and you start at the very beginning. And so that's what I wanted to share, Greg, this morning. And if you have any questions